Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Tonight, we delve into the intensifying insecurity gripping Ambazonia amidst the war, where the unchecked excesses of colonial forces continue to leave a trail of devastation. The ongoing human rights violations and violence at the hands of these colonial forces have cast a shadow over the nation of Ambazonia, with innocent lives caught in the crossfire of a conflict that they did not choose, from villages devastated by senseless brutality to civilians targeted without cause. The terror inflicted by these colonial actors goes unpunished, fueling the deepening crisis. Amidst this, the Ambazonian State Army remains resolute, standing as a symbol of defiance and determination. Their efforts to secure their homeland and preserve their territory from external aggression are unwavering, reflecting the spirit of a people fighting for their freedom. The Ambazonian State Army continues to resist encroachment and defend the integrity of Ambazonia, ensuring that their just cause for independence remains at the forefront of the struggle. As the nation of Ambazonia remains engulfed in conflict, the injustices inflicted on Ambazonians and the relentless fight for sovereignty are central themes in today's news. We will explore the ongoing challenges, the resilience of the Ambazonian people, and the ongoing efforts to bring peace and justice to a land that has endured far too long under the shadow of occupation. Stay with us as we bring you the stories behind the prime headlines.
It's another year and another Independence Day for a people at war. Once again, the time has come for Ambazonians across the globe to unite and celebrate their independence on October 1st. A day of pride, hope, and renewed purpose is upon us.
As we mark this significant occasion with cultural representations, dances, military parades from the Ambazonian State Army, all eyes will turn to the leader of the revolution.
Fellow Ambazonians, patriotic diasporas, I salute all of you gathered around our flag on this national day, our Independence Day.
President Samuel Ikome Sako on the eve of Independence Day. Join us on September 30th at 8 p.m. as President Samuel Ikome Sako addresses the nation.
Today, as the Never Again generation, we have one assignment: to right this great wrong through the sword of justice, with the flame of our courage and the undying spirit of our righteous resolve. So whether we live or die, let it be for Ambazonia.
In these trying times, amidst an 8-year conflict with La République du Cameroon, President Sako's words are expected to spark hope and chart a new direction.
Let me tell you again in a simple language. The person who does not want his neighbor to sleep should expect a knock on his door.
While the date for the war to end remains uncertain, brace yourselves for a roadmap towards a smarter prosecution of our liberation movement, a vision full of promise and determined leadership. Prepare to be inspired as we honor our journey and look forward to a brighter future.
To remind the world of our genocide and the injustice done to us as a nation by France and the complicit international community. Share our story with passion and courage, knowing that no one feels our pain more than we do, and no one knows our story more than those who have lived it, us. Let us fight as one man
Tune in live across all multimedia platforms and catch this monumental speech only on your favorite TV channel. Don't miss this pivotal moment. Together, let's reignite the spirit of Ambazonia.
This Independence Day, immerse yourself in the words of our leader. Be part of history in the making.
Well, these are the primary headlines of Undaunted tonight. To take a look at the road through EkondoTiti. It's a road that leads nowhere around the Prime Minister's constituency, all in shambles. We take a look as well at La Republique terrorist forces who have shot and killed a commercial bike rider at the Upstation hill amidst lockdown. Ambazonian State Army under general danger resists colonial forces in Momo County and show fierceness amidst the war. Erat community in Indian County are on the run after unknown gunmen assassinated their fawn and his wife and put the fawn's house on fire. We'll also see the attack on Bamako military base, a grim reminder of Mali's deepening instability on the African scene. Still on the national scene, we have teachers now wearing a bulletproof vest to teach students in school, leaving the students without any form of defense. And on the global scene, we see the Trump unveils new cryptocurrency platforms. And with that, we head into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. In our first report of tonight, we see a commercial motorcycle that has been a commercial motorcyclist who has been assassinated by the same people that he thought were going to protect him when he was disobeying the lockdown. The commercial motorcyclist has been assassinated by the same people that he thought he was working with during the lockdown, the national lockdown in Ambazonia. Now, a commercial motorcycle rider that Undaunted never got the name of, sadly, was killed by a colonial military officer on board a colonial military truck in Bamenda. The rider was shot around the S-band stretch of the Bamenda Upstation hill, and this happened on Friday last week during the lockdown period. Now, according to confirmed report, the young man, the bike rider, was attempting to overtake a colonial military truck heading to Upstation when he was shot. This happened after the rider had dropped a client at Mobile in Quain and was returning to Upstation at high speed when the incident occurred. The colonial troops lacked professional knowledge and did not verify whether the rider was a civilian or not. Good Samaritans rushed the rider to the hospital after he was shot by the colonial forces, where he later succumbed to his injuries. This incident is the latest in a series of shootings by Paul Biya's government's troops in Bamenda. The recent incident has dispelled any lingering doubts about the true purpose of these colonial military's massive deployment to the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. It is now crystal clear that their mission is one of devastation, to kill, plunder, and to destroy, as this is not the first case. We brought to you just last week the same colonial military not even trying to kill another motorcycle rider with the excuse of thinking that he was an Ambazonian state army. And we're still wondering in what country gives you the right to have a straight on execution of any civilian due to your suspicion, but only with La Republique untrained military. Well, still in the reports, we see Momo County, that while the colonial forces of La Republique are causing chaos and devastation, the Ambazonian State Army are not relenting with their defense of the Ambazonian people and its territory. A recent video that has emerged showcasing a fierce battle between the Ambazonian State Army, led by General Danger, the colonial forces, encroaching on Ambazonian territory in Momo County, in Jikwa, local government area in the southern Cameroon, sees the footage highlighting the resilience and determination of the Ambazonian State Army as they engaged in a shootout on the 14th of September, defending their homeland from the continued aggression aggression of La République du Cameroon forces. Now, this confrontation is a testament to the unwavering resolve of the Ambazonian state army to reclaim the independence of Ambazonia, which was stolen from them over 6 decades ago. The Ambazonian forces, under the strategic command of General Danger, have continued to make it clear that their struggle is not one of aggression, but of liberation. They are determined to protect their people and restore the sovereignty of Ambazonia, a cause deeply rooted in justice and the right to self-determination. As the conflict drags on, the Ambazonian state army calls on the soldiers of La République du Cameroon to cease fighting a war that they have no justification for waging. The continued occupation of Ambazonia is an act of oppression, and the loss of innocent lives on both sides is an avoidable tragedy. The Ambazonian state army's message is clear. They are fighting for a just cause, and the only solution is for La République to withdraw its forces and allow Ambazonians the freedom that they deserve. The bravery displayed, as you can see in the video, by the Ambazonian state army under the command of General Danger is the latest confrontation, which underscores the determination of the Ambazonian people to resist colonial occupation and fight for their stolen independence. General Danger and his forces are at the forefront of this just cause, just like other Ambazonian state army and generals, committed to seeing their homeland free from external domination. As long as La République continues to impose its will on Ambazonia, the resistance will continue, as we can see. But the hope remains that reason will prevail. The peace, hope, and justice will be achieved through the recognition of Ambazonia's right to self-determination and a just mediated settlement. Before we get over to Barrister Mbeseha, I would like to take a look at this video clearly to see the Ambazonian State Army in action on the 14th of September.
The 14th of September 2024. Danger life. Danger life. Danger life. Danger life, the 14th of Danger life, and the squad, the 14th of September, for Danger life, Danger life, Danger life, Danger life, Danger life, the 14th of Danger life, Danger life. General 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 Danger life. Today, the 14th September. General Danger life. Match of Food Council. General Danger life. General Danger life. General Danger life. General Danger life. The 14th of September. General Danger life. General Danger. Oh! Go back at the house. Go to the house.
Now you've seen that video with all of the sound with it. We have in the studio with us Barrister Mbeseha. Good evening, Barrister Mbeseha.
Good evening to you.
It's always a pleasure to have you with us. Now, we'll start with the first report, Barrister Mbeseha. We saw what happened. Yet again, we're seeing the colonial forces killing an innocent civilians. And what is their excuse? Oh, I thought he was an Amba fighter, and that's license enough to execute a civilian on the spot without any form of cross-checking, without any form of legal process, just straight up execution. This is one too many. I wouldn't say it's the second or the first. It's not the first or second. It's a countless number at this point. And we're seeing this yet again. We're seeing the colonial army executing civilians. With regards to that, I would like to get your thoughts, and seeing the ASA now mountain guard as always defending the territory. That's on the bright side. I would just like you to give your thoughts conclusively on this report.
Well, there are two distinct reports there, and they carry two distinct appreciations. On the military executing that bike rider, remember yesterday we talked about the effectiveness of the lockdown, and I said here that the lockdown was largely successful because even those who intended to violate it had to fear consequences, fear the consequences of their attempt to violate the lockdown. And so this young man, who we call a civilian, was killed, if the story is true, sometimes on the 14th, or at least during the lockdown. So why was he violating the lockdown? Why was he carrying passengers up and down in town when he knew that everybody was on the lockdown? He was a violator, was trying to show his ability to defy the lockdown. I met the consequences. Can I say, I'm not sure, that the military, by killing him, were trying to help. They were trying to help us enforce our lockdown. Or they were simply acting on their own. We don't know. But there are two messages to carry from there. When you hear a lockdown, respect it. Because there are consequences for violating it. There are reasons why you should lock down. That passenger you carry, 2-3 passengers for $200-$300 or whatever, 300 francs or whatever it is, it's not worth your life. Then go further and ask what these military guys were doing. It was not an accident. They shot him live. He had not offended anybody. He was just a bike rider. He was not carrying a gun. He was not carrying a spear. He was not carrying a cutlass. So, do these military people who are supposed to be acting on the instructions of the government that claims to be in control of the area, do they have the right to shoot at innocent riders? The only thing I heard from the report, he was trying to overtake. Is there an offense? Any offense overtaking a military truck or military jeep? There's no offense there. They have no right anytime, anywhere to shoot at innocent civilians. They don't even have the right to shoot at someone if you carry weapons. What they need to do, if there's an organized force as they claim to be, is to arrest you. They don't have the right to kill you. They don't have the right to final judgment. If they think they have done something wrong, like a government, they should arrest you. Hear your own version of the story. If they are not satisfied, take it to a regular court. And the final arbiter is the court. Shooting people and killing them on your own is being a judge, an accuser, and a judge yourself. So it is manifestly wrong, it is nationally wrong, it is internationally wrong. You should not do that. But again, as I said, from the side of Ambazonia, why was this guy even violating the lockdown? We don't know why. What was a sign of brilliance, a sign of defiance, whatever it was. We has borne the cost of it. And so going forward, others who want to behave like him should be careful that there's a risk to your own life. Other way, you are risking your life. It's not worth the pains. Then we can go now to the general danger whom we see there. I don't know. I just don't know whether general danger, that group, is affiliated to ASA. It's not for me to judge. People in charge of the department will do that. It's for them to know whether, because what we call ASA, there are many affiliated groups there. They call themselves different names. And then when they fight, they give us evidence of their fight. If they are part of the group of our ASA, that's great. But contrary to what you said there, I didn't see them fighting. We heard shots. We never saw any fight. If they had behaved like the only bro on Gokutinja, that would convince many people. Because when you want to put out a video out like that, to justify something, you do a little bit more. We have seen this from General, the only bro. When they attack, I put out videos like that. Even if immediately they don't have evidence to show, they will come shortly afterwards to show that this was what we were doing. This is proof of what we did. You will tell us we lost one of ours, or we all return back to base peacefully. We blow up a Land Rover, a pickup, whatever thing, and then they show us some pieces of the evidence to support that claim. That said, as I said, it's not for me to judge, but we heard the shooting. If they were really our ASA people, congratulations for doing that. That's a good job. If next time, try to put out something. If you want to put the video, try to add some evidence to convince us, to convince the, not me, I don't doubt, to convince the doubting Thomases that whatever thing they give to support you is worth being given. That's the result of their action. And so that is all I can say about those two incidents. Over to you.
Well, still looking at the war in Ambazonia, the insecurity is still on the rise. And we go over now to Erat community being the most recent case in this. We know the ongoing war in the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, which erupted in 2016, has created a deep humanitarian crisis with widespread violence, displacement, and insecurity that has affected millions of Ambazonian civilians. The conflict that was sparked by the Ambazonian struggle, the conflict that was sparked by Ambazonian struggle for independence that caused the war between the two nations has led to significant loss of life and countless atrocities, with an estimated 60,000 deaths and millions displaced. The region continues to face violent attacks, leaving communities devastated and forcing people to flee their homes. The war has created an environment of perpetual fear, and the recent events in the Erat community serves as yet another tragic example of this insecurity. I mean, time and time again, we've seen countless gunmen or known gunmen going to commit murders without them ever being identified. Sometimes eventually they are, and sometimes they even turn out to be even the colonial forces. Well, on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024, unknown gunmen brutally assassinated the Fon village chief of Erat and his wife, plunging the community into deep shock and disarray. The attack, which occurred in Mundemba and Dian County of the Atlantic zone of Ambazonia, has caused many villagers to flee, seeking refuge from the violence. Chief Obon Ekpo Philip Nkoy and his wife Akwai Ambang Mburu were not only shot by the attackers, but were also burned alongside their home, which was set ablaze. The extent of the violence was described by a source from Erat, who recounted saying they were burned almost to ashes. A few of us who stayed behind managed to bury the remnants of their body. It is a tragic moment for our community, according to this source, who also is revealed that most residents had escaped to nearby bushes and crossed into neighboring countries like Nigeria after such a grim incident. The attack had sent waves of panic throughout the Erat community, prompting a mass flight of residents, a mass exodus. Reports indicate that the attackers threatened to return, intensifying the atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. Many have sought safety in the surrounding wilderness, while others have fled the country entirely, leaving behind and reaching out to the wider public and humanitarian organization for immediate aid, as the community has been left without essential resources and remains highly vulnerable to further violence. Now, this tragic event is part of a broader pattern of atrocities attributed to the genocidal actions of the colonial regime in Ambazonia. The ongoing war has created a dire situation where communities are repeatedly subjected to brutal attacks, forcing thousands more into refugee status every year. The latest attack in Erat highlights the ongoing humanitarian crisis and the urgent need for international intervention. As the conflict continues to escalate, the plight of displaced Ambazonians remain a critical issue that requires global attention and action. The people of Erat are just one of many communities grappling with the devastating consequences of this protracted war. Well, we keep talking about Ambazonians refugees, Amazonian refugees number increasing every year. And yet again, we get to see a number of Ambazonia who are forced to flee without any prior notice due to the state of the war that has given room to this level of insecurity. Barrister Mbeseha, it's at this point we would like to hand the floor over to you, looking at this particular scenario in Erat The gunmen were not identified, and it is not an isolated case. There's so many other cases where so-called gunmen who are never identified get to just commit blatant shootouts and kill an individual and just walk away. This time around, they threatened the entire community, telling them they would be back, and it reinforced a state of fear, which led the entire village to flee and find their ways to different other parts, like even different countries like Nigeria. With regards to this, what would you say, Barrister Mbeseha?
A number of things to say about it. The first thing is, this is happening in 2024, almost 8 years into the conflict. And refugees are still streaming out of their locations to Nigeria or somewhere else. Just take it back a few days ago, we talked about the return to normalcy. You asked me yesterday whether the international community has received our message. The answer I said yes. This is the people, the chief, his wife, and his compound burnt. The villagers are fleeing. Everybody fleeing with his own family to some safety. I guess in that community there are schools. Is that an environment that the international community, led by the US ambassador, the Vatican ambassador, the archbishop, and other people, think the children in that Erat, I don't know how you call it, should go to school? Is that an environment for children to go to school? In that generalized insecurity? Certainly not. So 10 years into the struggle, 8 years into the struggle, people are still fleeing. So there's no talk of normalcy. Let us go back to the killing of the gentleman, the chief and his wife. Once you hear something reported by Yawundi, because the report will end up with the government, unidentified gunmen. They call it unidentified gunmen. Maybe that's what the government say. The passerby say, well, Amba boys. Those are the common reports you hear all the time. So you read a lot into this thing. I've said anything that you hear from the government, unidentified gunmen, Amba boys, take it with a pinch of salt. Because to their responsibility to protect the people, and they should be able to investigate and tell you who are these people. If they are not doing it, it is total failure of governance on their part, not on the part of Ambazonia. But as homework, when we close on this topic, I would like to remind our people and our followers that in this struggle is centered on two things in terms of security. There's the Ambazonian struggling forces, which we call the ASA. They can call themselves different names. They are grouped into one name called ASA. They are the ones challenging the government of Cameroon, not Amba boys. No. Opposing the ASA is a formidable force of what they call the Cameroon security forces, grouped in different formats. They are grouped in the BIR, all of us know that. They are grouped in the police, the gendarmes, even the customs. Those are their uniform wearing soldiers. But in addition to that, they have the affiliated groups. They don't call themselves Amba boys. They have the affiliated groups, which include, for example, the ADF. The ADF of AGOF-C does not call itself Amba boys. They call themselves ADF. But we know that they are the affiliates of the government. So when you say Amba fighter, you're not referring to ADF. You're not referring to ASA. So who are these Amba boys? A group has been created officially called the Amba Boys. We also know there's a group called Amba Boys, which is headed by Atanganji. Atanganji's defense forces are called Amba Boys. It's not me saying. They've created Amba Boys as the support group for the government. But that's not even all. There's another one again. They call them the Vigilante, officially created by Erat. So these guys are related to the government. And so when you hear Amba Boys, you hear Vigilante, Ngala Gerard, Yamba boys think of Atanganji, here the ADF, you know that this is Chua Yabastin, but we also know that is an affiliate of the government. So this thing is certain down was able to identify and properly identify who was responsible for what. So that's it. It's a pity this poor man with his family is killed. They didn't only kill him, they destroy everything he calls property, burn it down. And you have only sympathizers, fleeing sympathizers to bury his corpse, their corpses before fleeing themselves. And so this is where we find ourselves. Does the international community take note of this? Of course. You and me are listening to news. They listen to the same news. They only know of all this. Of course they do know. He said this is happening in India. So he cannot escape the notice of Mr. Undaunted, who is the Prime Minister sitting here only there. Very likely or not, that office of Prime Minister has a lot of influence, has a lot of power. In that very Indian day, yet we go to Yaoundé as senators. We go to Yaoundé as members of parliament. And so where are they? What excuse did we give to the family of this poor man being killed without anybody being held accountable? These are the very people. A few days to come, they will say, go and vote Mr. Pobia. He's the best president we've ever found. And so, what should you tell the family of this guy if we both meet in heaven or even in hell? There's a story to be told. Again, this is a continuation of a lockdown. The purpose of this government, which we declared, was to address the root causes of the problem, solve the uncontrollable violence, peace will return. The chief would not have died if there had been peace. And so that is it. The motorbike guy who was driving his motorbike would not have been shot dead openly in the street if they had resolved this problem for which we are not responsible. No Ambazonian is ever responsible for this war. They had the right like anywhere else, even slaves had the right to ask for some rights, to ask for their rights as slaves. And if you ask the right as a slave, and the slave master turns a gun on you, well, you will die fighting if you still have the force to fight even as a slave. And so that's it. I think the message is clear. There's no return to normalcy. The risk is higher. If the chief, an old man, married, could just be killed, how do you expect a little child, a little boy, a little girl, 10 years, 6 years going to primary school, to survive in this environment? As we've said, the whole environment of Ambazonia is school unfriendly, is people unfriendly because of the security that prevails at random, permanently there for the past 7 years. Over to you.
Speaking of how do you expect students to cope with this type of atmosphere, there is a report on that. But before we get to that, we're going to see that La Republic's concern is far away from the safety of Ambazonians, but more about where they can make their next money from. Now, this is a report on the state of the road in EkondoTiti. This is nothing new. We've seen this in the news time and time again. But then we're seeing that the government is most likely having a scheme to even make money from the international scene about the state of the roads in Ambazonia and in La Republic. Well, the deplorable condition of the EkondoTiti road, which is a harsh reminder of the challenges faced by communities in the southern Cameroon, the road which was once under construction by Tunisian company in 2017 was abandoned after a known gunman kidnapped and killed foreign workers despite ransom payment. Now, this incident highlights the security concerns and violence that have plagued the nation, which makes Ambazonia say normalcy has not returned, even though the colonial government would want to claim otherwise. Now we'll take a look at this video of the EkondoTiti road. We brought to you a video of the EkondoTiti road. The previous time we showed you the motorcyclists' plight they go through working the terrains of this road because their motorcycles are literally useless. And this time around, we're getting to see the same scenarios with cars struggling. There is literally no road. It is as good as saying impassable. Cars end up breaking down at spots like this. Now, it is disturbing to note that the area, which is represented by the Prime Minister, has the roads remaining in disrepair. Many are questioning why funds are not in use for the right purpose, why funds potentially up to 1 billion francs CFAs aren't being allocated to improve the road and ensure the comfort and safety of locals. Instead, some argue that the funds are being mismanaged and benefiting those already wealthy, both domestically and internationally. Now, this situation raises broader concerns about governance and accountability in the Cameroons, but is nothing new to those who look at the news with the Cameroons and their corruption, which work in tandem. Some speculate that the ruling party, CPDM, treats the country as private property, prioritizing personal interest over public welfare, and that includes personal pocket lining deals over public welfare. Now, we're highlighting the key situations which include security concerns, mismanagement of funds, a lack of accountability, which is nothing new with the colonial administration, and so much more. We get to see the infrastructure damage, recurring flood due to terrible planning. Due to terrible towns planning, we get to see reoccurring floods. We get to see terrible roads because of the government's negligence. And what they're more concerned about is asking for almost 1 billion francs CFAs to do things that at the end of the day, nobody gets to see them actually done, even though the money eventually is disbursed. And it is quite sad. It is quite sad. But then it's the faith of every entire Cameroons, but those of La République and the Southern Cameroons until Ambazonia regains her independence. That is the current faith that they are facing. Now, looking at this case, we want to divert the attention to the state of the schools. Going back to what Barrister Mbeseha talked about, the school children, we're getting a report. It is quite ironic, but I mean, at this point with the La République, nothing is funny anymore. We get to see the colonial administration investing in bulletproof vests for their teachers. Now, as the colonial government of La République du Cameroon continues to push its false narrative of a return to normalcy in the southern Cameroons, it becomes increasingly clear that the facade is designed to deceive the international community by diverting attention away from the ongoing atrocities, human rights violations, and injustices inflicted upon Ambazonia, with the colonial regime attempting to cover up its long-standing theft of Ambazonia's independence. It is now forcing teachers to wear bulletproofs to teach students in schools, and they're not even thinking how do the children get to protect themselves if teachers are the only ones wearing these bulletproofs? Why not bring an end to the crisis instead of investing in bulletproofs for just a single teacher and leaving the entire students defenseless? Well, before we get into the intricacies of this particular report, because it is a lot, it is very broad, it is something that has been talked about time and time again, but this is another facet to it. But then before we get into that, we're going to take a quick look at the previous report of the roads. We'll take a look at that before we get into the state of schools in Ambazonia. Now, what is interesting with this particular report, because I mean, we've seen time and time again, the roads in Ambazonia are terrible, are depleted, but then having this new request of 350 million francs CFAs by the colonial government, something that a lot of Ambazonians and La République citizens understand that they're never going to see the fruit of. It is something that has caused a certain type of consternation and remarks from the civilian population of La République. Barrister Mbeseha.
I think the road to EkondoTiti can be analyzed purely as an example, because the road to EkondoTiti in particular, and Dian at large, is the tip of the iceberg in terms of road infrastructure in Amazonia. But it is important for us to deal with EkondoTiti because EkondoTiti is now on the flashlight. Why EkondoTiti? EkondoTiti is even featured in the world map. It is featured in Cameroon national debates in a silent way. We've heard about this nonsense they call Glencore, and I've had the time to say it here. EkondoTiti is Indian. All the oil that's coming out of India is what is refined in Limbe, in Victoria, and then marketed in Douala through the SNH. That's all the wealth. And that oil produces at least 2/3 of the whole economy of Cameroon as a block. And then why is EkondoTiti going through this difficulty? If for anything else, they should be able to have just the royalties of the gas pumped out of their own territory. They are not. You see what you call a road there, and you told of how there was something, a Tunisian company that was supposed to construct the road. I can say here without mincing words, there was something like that, but that is all political machination. Because the people in Yaoundé, our oppressors are very, very intelligent. You know what to bring up and when. When elections are coming out, they put out something there to deceive you that they will do something. Why was it all in 2020, 2000 something that they brought in Surubat? Why? India has been there forever. What they call the Indian division was created in 1964. They started pumping gas out of there in 1975, 10 years after. There has never been a road there. So why 2020? They saw elections coming and they proposed to put that in there, Surubat, to do a road. We never did. The road is still what it was. But there's something that is missing there that perhaps you did not know or you've not heard. Right now, as we speak, because elections are coming up next year, they are purported to give another contract to that road, for that very road, to the Génie Militaire. That's the military arm, the construction arm of the military, which is all a deceit. The Génie Militaire was not meant to be digging roads like that. It is conceived to be roads, short roads for the government, to facilitate their own movement. So on the eve of an election, they say now we're going to contract to Génie Militaire. By the time that the election comes up next year, in the next 1 year, 12 months, you will not even have put up a gutter there. And the poor people out there will foolishly go and vote for them. At the end of which, they will pack their caterpillars and move away. That's not the first time they do that. They always do that. And I gave this example of 1984, when the Manfei-Kumba Road was so bad. They purported to want to construct the Manfei-Kumba Road. They went and brought a company called Fijiro, which claimed that they were digging the road. They packed the equipment at Kokobuma and brought the Manfei from Kumba. Soon after that, they packed the equipment and went to Bolivar. They don't know road there. Fijiro was simply ordered to pack their things and go to Bolivar, and they did. So, poor EkondoTiti people, if any place in southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, should go through this, it should not be EkondoTiti. I say because I'm from Liberia. In Liberia, we don't even have a track of road. Absolutely nothing. There's no track of road in Kupe Manunguma. I saw them just on the eve of this election saying, well, we're giving some caterpillars that do roads in Kupe Manunguma. There's nothing there. They're just deceiving people. But again, why India? Why EkondoTiti? Why the silence of Mr. Diongute, the son of Ndian, even to talk about their bad roads? Why the silence of Mr. Akeremona, who is fighting for to get something from Glencore? Glencore, in principle, cheated Cameroon. Yes. But they cheated Indian first, before cheating Cameroon. We've said here, we had the opportunity to say here that we would have expected Mr. Akeremona to fight for the rights of the people of Indian, who are the proprietary owners, natural, of the resources that come from there. He's not doing it. And we think that some people in India sitting at are better days ahead. What does it pay you to have a prime minister who sits in Yaoundé? because it's a star building. Who drives in the Mercedes car? But he cannot even land with a helicopter in his own compound, Indian. Absolutely nothing. It's a deceit. The routes are not going to change. This is not the first rainy season. At least 60 other rainy seasons have come and passed. So we purportedly join here one day. And the road has never improved. So we don't want to fight their wars for their own roads in Garawa, in Yagwa, wherever. If they don't have them, so be it. They have the government they deserve. What we're saying is that we don't deserve this. Again, as I said before, we did not join these people for them to go and dig roads for us. We had these resources to construct our own roads, to construct our own schools. We just needed to have them and do what we want. And that's what we're fighting for. Over to you.
That's a very important piece of information as well as history there. But what is interesting is Ambazonians looking at the state of La Republic, they start to wonder, how can a country that has barely done enough for itself be able to do anything for Ambazonia? Now, to give the details of this disastrous scene in La Republic, we see that even in La Republic, our regions are full of recent floods in Mayo, Dane, far north region of La Republic, which have left a trail of destruction with at least 10 fatalities, 185 primary schools and 13 high schools flooded, and over 1,100 livestock have been lost amid the flooding. Now, the city of Yagoa has been severely affected, with schools with its entire neighborhood submerged, and over 200,000 people have been impacted by this flood. Residents are struggling to access basic necessities like food and shelter, with many displaced to temporary camps outside the city. Locals are expressing frustration and desperation, citing the recurring threats of flood every year with no lasting solution. The destruction of a critical bridge connecting Maga to Yagua has further isolated certain neighborhoods, exacerbating the crisis. Now we get to see Barrister Mbeseha that even with La Republic, they do not have a proper governing, they do not have a proper planning or territorial administrator doing the work there. We get to see that flooding as well is reoccurring. But as you have said, Ambazonians are focusing on reclaiming their stolen independence so they can fix their own country for themselves. For La Republic, it is up to them to finally free themselves from a nonagenarian and have their own future in the hand. But Ambazonians will focus on Ambazonia. Now, away from the disaster, but I would say about this, it gets to show that a country that cannot put its own nation in order, how much more can they do for Ambazonia? That is just the question that leaves hanging. But then we go away from this disaster, which is quite the news. We go away from that disaster to see what is happening with schools. We get to see La Republic false narratives about schools. As I was saying earlier before, I thought to delve in deeper into the state of the roads in Ambazonia, as you gave this very important aspect of the history of Ambazonia and what Ambazonia should focus on when it comes to their infrastructure and building their nation. We'll go back to the report I was talking about of schools. We know La Republic's propaganda of propagating normalcy in Ambazonia. But then this report we have is even another twist to the entire scenario. We see that as the colonial government of La Republic to Cameroon continues to push this false narrative of a return to normalcy in the war-torn southern Cameroons, it becomes increasingly clear that this facade is designed to deceive the international community by diverting attention away from the ongoing atrocities, human rights violations, and the injustices inflicted upon Ambazonia. The colonial regime is attempting to cover up its long-standing theft of Ambazonia's independence. In their latest and most desperate bid to maintain this illusion of peace, the colonial government has focused its efforts on schools, an institution that should symbolize safety and growth, But in the southern Cameroon, it has become yet another battleground. Since before the start of this academic year, the regime has been coercing students to return to school without addressing the main cause of the issue, despite the volatile and dangerous conditions that these students face. Their goal is not to prioritize education or the well-being of these students, but to send a message to the world that life is back to normal. But the reality on the ground is anything but normalcy. One of the clearest indicators of this is the shocking action taken in GSS and Ginicom, where teachers have been instructed to wear bulletproof vests provided by the colonial government. The students, however, have been left vulnerable without any such protection. This move is yet another desperate attempt to project the illusion of safety, caring only for the optics, not the people. By prioritizing appearances over genuine security, the colonial regime has revealed once again that it values its propaganda more than especially Ambazonian lives. The question remains, how can there be a return to normalcy when classrooms are no longer sanctuaries of learning, but instead another place in a war zone? How can education thrive in an environment where teachers must shield themselves from bullets while students are left defenseless? This desperate attempt by the colonial government to maintain control and suppress the truth cannot mask the real crisis in southern Cameroon. Ambazonians remains a land under siege, its people fighting only for survival and for the justice and freedom that was stolen from them. Now, the international community must see beyond these hollow attempts at portraying peace and recognize the ongoing suffering that lies just beneath the surface of the colonial government's propaganda. The people of Ambazonia will not be deceived by such tactics. Their struggle for sovereignty and the restoration of their independence continues, despite the oppressive measures taken by the colonial regime. And while the world may be shown staged scenes of a normal return to life, the truth is that Ambazonians remain in the midst of a fight for their very existence. Barrister Mbeseha, you know a lot about what is happening on the ground. The case of this in Ginicom, I mean, you have a thing or two to say about this.
Well, I think that video is a vindication of what we have been saying. The most important thing is that is not an audio, it is a video. The narrator gives his name, his address. He says he comes from Kubo. He's posted to go and teach somewhere in Ginicom. I think that is somewhere in Boyo. And then they give them bulletproof jackets to wear to go and teach there. And they have turned it down. He said, no, we're going to take this risk. And then he was asked in that interview, have you seen children wearing bulletproof jackets too? He said, no, I've not seen one. So the message there takes us back again to yesterday and to many things that were said before yesterday. And I wish somebody should send that very video to Archbishop Andrew Nkia, who in his last message before we started this debate said, parents, send your children, don't be afraid to send your children to school. That's what his message. And if I'm not mistaken, Boyo is part of Bamenda Diocese. If not the Archdiocese, it's part of Bamenda Diocese. If this teacher, an adult, a whole man, has to go teach when armed with bulletproof jackets, can Bishop Andrew tell us that it's still safe for the little kids to go sit in that classroom? I guess there are college schools in Ginicom, in Boyo. The government is giving its own teachers bulletproof jackets. There was a Catholic mission under Bishop, give his own teachers, have the ability to arm his own teachers with bulletproof jackets. If they can arm the teachers, so be it. But do they have the ability to arm every single child with a bulletproof jacket? Certainly no. And they asked that guy in that interview, what happens at the end of the day? Do you go home with your jackets? He said, no, they take them away from us. So the next day we'll come, wear them, and go teach. And we've said, no, we're calling the government to address this issue so the problem will end. So that we as teachers, we can teach with freedom. We can teach with security. That's the message from him. Again, if you take it back to what we did yesterday, it's not you and me who fabricated this thing. I guess all the embassies in Yaoundé who have the ability to see, to watch, can hear this man talking with his voice, with his picture, with his name put there. He's not hiding those facts. Can those foreign embassies that we're addressing them through the international community say that there's peace? No. I said yesterday that we're addressing countries that have embassies in Yaoundé. And last week, specifically last Saturday, we talked about the United Nations General Assembly. All these countries are found in the United Nations. They are sitting there. But above all these countries that are listening to us, the most important ones, the UK with an embassy in Yaoundé, France with an embassy in Yaoundé, US with an embassy in Yaoundé, Moscow with an embassy in Yaoundé, China, they have embassies in Yaoundé. These are the 5 permanent members of the Security Council who can act through the General Assembly if they wish, but obligatorily through the Security Council. They are all in Yaoundé. They are watching us now, or they will watch us later by recording messages. They have all this information. And again, I said last Saturday, the General Assembly session that has started in September, purportedly headed by Philemon Yang, has as its theme addressing security, national security, armed struggles. That's their theme. So take away Philemon Yang, they have the cover. These countries have the cover to raise this issue at the United Nations at any level, at the level of the General Assembly, because they're all there, or best at the Security Council, because all the 5 permanent members of the Security Council are in Yaoundé. They are witnesses to what that teacher is saying. They are witnesses to what we are talking about, people being killed, the chief being killed with his family. They see it. They don't need somebody to report it to them. We are reporting the same news that they listen to. And so it is unfortunate that they think that they can fake normalcy. There is no normalcy anywhere in the world with bulletproof jackets. Once you wear a bulletproof jacket, you know there's insecurity. I personally went to Ivory Coast, I went to Burundi. We're serving in peacekeeping missions. We were not allowed, even during elections, to go conduct elections without a bulletproof, because the country was under war. They will kill you. You don't know where the bullet will come from. So the United Nations made sure all its staff had bulletproof jackets. Is there one in Cameroon? If there was one in Cameroon, that's okay. But shall we say that is peace? That is normalcy? No. After all these things I've said, well, that I took part in, we left with our bulletproofs. The country got their security. They returned to normalcy. We went to the Côte d'Ivoire because of war. That are peace. Don't some people wearing bulletproofs there. We went to Burundi because of the genocide. That we left with our bulletproofs. The country had a civil president. They deal with their own affairs the way they want. That's the international standard. It's not normalcy that is going to be fake of Yandi. From the surrogates of the civilian, who themselves never go to any war front, but they encourage you to go and die. I'm sure if you went to see that chief who was killed, he probably had a CPDM uniform hanging on his wall. But he died. The CPDM will not even have the opportunity to go and bury him. He has been thrown in the soil. And so that is pathetic, but again, that is a vindication. It's not self-made evidence that was created now. It is a vindication of our story. It is a vindication of our stand. Address the root causes of this problem, end the war, and everything will fall in place, including the resumption of schools, including the construction of roads, including any other thing that goes with civil society and civil living. Over to you.
All right, Barrister Mbeseha, that would be all we'll have from you tonight on Undaunted. That was our major concern, the school resumption and the insecurity with the colonial government's insistence on students returning to school. That was our major concern for tonight. But if you have any more words in summary for tonight's Undaunted before you leave, would like to take that now before we get onto the African news. Well, on the African scene, we see a military police base in Mali's capital, Bamako, came under attack early Tuesday today in a failed infiltration attempt by unidentified gunmen, according to a police source. The attack targeted the Faladi military police school located on the city's outskirts. Mali's army quickly took control of the situation, claiming that terrorists had attempted to infiltrate the training camp. The attackers, later identified as local jihadist groups affiliated with Al-Qaeda, claimed responsibility for the incident. Now, despite the army's swift response, the attack has raised concerns about the growing reach of extremist groups and the vulnerability of Bamako, traditionally seen as more secure than the conflict-ridden central and northern regions of Mali. Reports from the scene describe 2 explosions and smoke rising, further illustrating the brazenness of the insurgents' assault on the nation's capital. Mali, alongside its neighbors Burkina Faso and Niger, has been embroiled in a decade-long insurgency fueled by extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. These groups have taken advantage of the Sahel region's political instability, exploiting weak state institutions and porous borders. Recent military coups in all 3 nations have added another layer of complexity, with the ruling juntas expelling French forces and increasingly relying on Russian mercenaries for security assistance. Despite these changes, attacks are becoming more frequent, even in areas like Bamako that had previously been insulated from the insurgency. The attack is particularly alarming in light of a recent Al-Qaeda ambush in northern Mali, which left 50 Russian mercenaries dead. This convoy has been fighting alongside Mali's army against Tuareg rebels when they were ambushed, a stark reminder that even well-trained foreign forces are vulnerable. These incidents are causing increasing pressure on Mali ruling junta to demonstrate that it can protect its people and maintain security, especially after expelling French forces in favor of Russian assistance. The implications of the attack on the Faladi military schools are far-reaching. The expansion of extremist violence into the capital signals that no part of Mali is immune to the ongoing insurgency, raising concerns about the security of key government and military installations. Well, this new development threatens to undermine public confidence in the government's security strategy and could lead to demands for a re-evaluation of Mali's counter-terrorism policies. Regionally, the instability in Mali mirrors that of Burkina Faso and Niger, where insurgencies continue to escalate. These countries share the challenge of combating extremist groups, and the recent attack in Bamako could be a catalyst for deeper regional cooperations. However, the shift from Western military support to reliance on Russian mercenaries complicates efforts to form a unified defense strategy across the Sahel. The increasing involvement of foreign mercenaries raises questions about the sustainability of this approach, especially given the recent losses suffered by Russian units in the region. Now, despite these challenges, the attack also presents an opportunity for Mali to strengthen its domestic military capabilities by focusing on improving trainings, intelligence gathering, and counterterrorism operations. The country's military could reduce its reliance on foreign mercenaries and better protect its citizens. A greater emphasis on regional collaboration could also improve security outcomes across the Sahel, particularly if neighboring countries can coordinate efforts to combat jihadist groups more effectively. The attack on Bamako's military base is a sobering reminder of the urgent need for Mali to reevaluate its defense strategies. It also opens the door for possible re-engagement with international allies and organizations who may be willing to offer additional support to stabilize the region, strengthening intelligence networks and enhancing the coordination between military and law enforcement. The coordination between military and law enforcement agencies will be the key in preventing future attacks and ensuring a quicker response to emerging threats. The attack on the Faladi Military Police School in Bamako also highlights the deepening insecurity in Mali and signals the extremist groups are expanding their reach into urban areas. And this incident exposes vulnerabilities within the military and raises concerns about the effectiveness of the current security strategy, particularly in light of the growing reliance on foreign mercenaries. The implications of these attacks extend beyond Mali's borders, potentially prompting greater regional cooperation against shared insurgencies. Moving forward, the junta will need to reassess its security policies, improve domestic military capabilities, and strengthen its intelligence network to prevent further attacks and restore confidence in its ability to maintain stability. Well, news across the globe, we see former U.S. President Donald Trump, along with his sons and entrepreneurs, on late Monday, launch a cryptocurrency platform, but provided few details. Little was revealed about the Trump family crypto project during a 2-hour online presentation, other than an offer to let people buy digital tokens, giving them a vote in platform decisions. The event went ahead as planned despite an apparent assassination attempt against Trump on Sunday, again at his golf club in West Palm Beach, Florida. World Liberty Financial intends to offer services based on so-called decentralized finance, a mechanism that eliminates the need for an intermediary such as a bank to carry out transactions with a third party. The politics-laced discussion indicated this. Decentralized finance, or DeFi, is based on so-called blockchain technology, which keeps a theoretically open but tamper-proof record of transactions. And then with the China scene, we get to see a U.S. pastor free from the Chinese prison after 18 years in prison. Now, World Liberty Financial will enable users to lend or borrow cryptocurrencies to or from one another, a service already offered by many platforms, one of the best known of which is Aave. An American pastor detained in China for almost 20 years has been released from prison and flown home to his family in Texas. David Lin, 68, was given a life sentence in 2006 on charges that the United States says were bogus after he was convicted of fraud for helping an underground church launch a meeting center in Beijing. His release took place just weeks after the United States National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met China's foreign minister in the Chinese capital. His daughter, Alice, told Politico, "No words can express the joy we have. We have a lot of time to make up for." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Yemen's Houthis will pay a heavy price as another discussion on the global scene after a missile fired by the group landed in central Israel. The Israeli military said the missile landed in an uninhabited area early on Sunday, but that shrapnel indicated air defense systems had failed to destroy it before it entered Israeli airspace. Now, it added that it was investigating how the missile was able to reach so far into Israeli territory. The strike marks the first time a missile fired by the group has reached central Israel, which is around 2,000 kilometers. That is approximately 1,240 miles from Yemen. And that is all we have on the news of Undaunted tonight. Coming up next is the recap. Well, with that, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, this is the recap of Undaunted tonight. We saw in the news the Prime Minister's constituency, the Prime Minister of La Republique. His constituency is in shambles as there is no road to anywhere, with EkondoTiti roads terribly dilapidated. We also saw La Republique terrorizing forces who have shot and killed yet another commercial bike rider at Upstation Hill, while that bike rider was violating the national lockdown. And Ambazonian State Army as well under general danger resists colonial forces in Momo County. We also saw Erat community insecurity. Erat community in Indian is on the run after unknown gunmen assassinated their fawn and wife and burnt the village with the fawn and wife in it. We saw the attack on Bamako military base on the African Report, which is a grim reminder of Mali's deepening instability. And on the global scene, we saw Trump unveiling new cryptocurrency platform. And with that, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight, bringing into the news untold stories. We're leaving now with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.